Your ankle is fine at 8 in the morning and swollen by 6 at night. Same leg, same day. Nothing you ate changed. A one-way valve inside your vein stopped closing, and gravity won 9 hours in a row. No food on earth closes a valve. And that's one of 4 completely different problems that all get called bad circulation. Here's how to tell yours apart, in your own chair, tonight. Emergency medicine, most of my working life. And legs are where I learned to slow down. A leg is not one system. Almost every mistake I watched people make with their legs came from treating it like one. So here's the reframe, and it's the whole video. When somebody says their circulation is bad, they could mean any of 4 things, and those 4 have almost nothing to do with each other. An artery problem. Blood can't get down. That's peripheral artery disease. A vein problem. Blood can't get back up. That's the valves. A drainage problem. Fluid leaks into the tissue and never gets collected. That's lymphatic. And a nerve problem. The blood is fine. The wiring isn't. Numb feet, whether you're walking or sitting still, that's a different video. 4 problems. 1 complaint. And every food list online was written as though there were only 1. So we're doing this backwards. First, what actually moves blood through a leg? 4 parts. And you'll name them all in 90 seconds. Then which part your symptom is pointing at. Then what changes each one. Some of it is food. The single most effective thing in this video is not, and it costs about $18 at any pharmacy. Start with the plumbing. Blood leaves your heart under pressure and travels down to your foot. Downhill, gravity helps. The artery is the pipe. Your heartbeat is the push. Now it has to come back. Up, roughly 4 feet, straight against gravity, and your heart is not doing that job. By the time blood reaches your toes, the heart's push is spent. So what lifts it? Your calf. That's not a figure of speech. Cleveland Clinic calls the calf muscle your second heart, and means it literally. Deep inside your calf, veins run right through the muscle. Every time that muscle contracts every step, every rise onto your toes, it squeezes those veins flat and shoves a column of blood upward. Then it relaxes. And here's the part that matters. One-way valves inside the vein snap shut, so the blood you just lifted doesn't fall back down. Squeeze, lift, door shuts, squeeze again. That's your entire return system. A pump you operate with your feet, and a staircase of tiny doors that only swing one way. So there are your 4 parts. The pipe, the artery carrying blood down. The lining inside it, which decides how open it is. The pump, your calf. And the valves that keep whatever the pump lifted. Every leg problem in this video is one of those 4 failing. Which is exactly why eat these 5 foods is the wrong shape of an answer. It answers a question nobody asked yet. Barbara is 74, retired, outside Buffalo, 38 years as a floor nurse, most of them standing through 12-hour shifts, and that detail explains everything that follows. By her 60s, her ankles were thick by dinner time, sock lines that stayed pressed in an hour after the socks came off, a heavy, dragging ache in her calves every afternoon. Not sharp, she kept saying, just heavy. Spider veins first, then rope-like veins up the back of her calf. She'd been eating beets and spinach faithfully for 2 years because a video told her to. Her ankles kept swelling. Here's why. 38 years of standing still is 38 years of the pump not pumping. Standing is not walking. Standing is a 4-foot column of blood resting on those valves 12 hours at a stretch, and that pressure stretches the vein wider than the flaps can reach across. The door still swings. It just doesn't touch the frame. So blood falls back down. It pools. Pressure climbs in the smallest vessels, and fluid gets squeezed out into the tissue of her ankle. That's the swelling. That's all it is. More than 25 million American adults live with this chronic venous insufficiency far more common than the artery disease everybody worries about. 6 million are already into the advanced stages. Now the part I want you to use tonight. Look at your ankles before bed. Then look again when you wake up, before your feet have been on the floor an hour. If the swelling is gone in the morning, that's gravity, and that's reassuring. You spent 8 hours flat. The only stretch of the day your leg isn't fighting uphill, and your body reabsorbed the fluid on its own. That's a pump and valve story. Manageable, common, and not an emergency. If the swelling is still sitting there when you wake up, that's a completely different conversation. 8 hours horizontal is the best chance your body gets to clear a leg. If it can't, something is putting in more fluid than gravity alone explains. That's a heart question, a kidney question, or a liver question. It needs a doctor, not a grocery list. That test costs nothing and takes 4 seconds. I've watched people spend 2 years and $400 on supplements without ever doing it. One more distinction while you're down there. Press your thumb into the swollen spot, firmly, 5 seconds, then let go. A dent that slowly fills back in means fluid in the tissue, the venous kind. If it barely dents, and the swelling includes the top of your foot and the base of your toes, that points to the lymphatic side. A drainage problem, not a valve problem. Different specialist, different treatment, same complaint. That's the trap. So Barbara's valves are stretched. What closes them? Nothing you swallow. I'll be blunt, because it's the honest center of this whole topic. No food, no vitamin, no extract, no T repairs, a stretched vein valve. That's a mechanical problem. It gets a mechanical answer. Compression. I know. A stocking is the least exciting recommendation in all of medicine. It also outperforms every food on the internet's list, and it isn't close. And the mechanism is the one we just built. The valve fails because the vein got too wide for the flaps to meet. Squeeze the leg from outside. You narrow the vein, and the flaps reach each other again. You aren't healing the valve. You're moving the walls back to where it still works. 4 things nobody tells you. 1. It has to say graduated. That word graduated means tightest at the ankle and looser going up, which pushes fluid the direction you want. A tube sock that's tight in the middle does the opposite of the thing you paid for. 2. The number on the box is in millimeters of mercury, same unit as blood pressure. 15 to 20 is for tired, achy legs and long days on your feet. 20 to 30 is the working range for real varicose veins and real ankle swelling. Most people who need 20 to 30 buy 15 to 20 because they're easier to pull on, then wonder why nothing happened. 3. And this one decides whether they work at all. Put them on in the morning, before your feet hit the floor, or within minutes of it. Compression's whole job is to keep the leg from filling. Wait until 4 in the afternoon and you're wrapping a leg that's already full. You just lock the fluid in. And 4. Please hear this one. Compression is not for everybody, and this is exactly where it can hurt you. If blood can't get down the artery in the first place, squeezing that leg makes the shortage worse. So if your foot is cold or pale compared to the other, if your leg aches while you're sitting perfectly still or wakes you at night, if you have a sore down there that won't heal, do not put a compression stocking on that leg until somebody checks the arteries. That is not fine print. Squeezing a leg with a blocked artery is how tissue dies. That's the pump and the valves. Now the lining, and here's where food finally earns a section with a demotion attached. Inside every artery you own is a layer of cells exactly 1 cell thick. 1. It's called the endothelium, and laid out flat it would cover a few tennis courts. It isn't wallpaper, it's the control panel. That single layer decides how open the pipe is. Healthy, it releases nitric oxide, the signal, telling the ring of muscle around your artery to let go. The pipe widens. More blood gets through. Roughed up, it stops making enough signal, and the pipe stays tight even when your leg is begging for blood. So what damages it? High blood sugar. Sugar sticks to proteins and forms junk that chemically mops up nitric oxide before it can work. High blood pressure years of pounding scours the surface. And smoking, fastest of the three by a wide margin. Now the sentence the food lists never say. Those three damage the lining faster than any food repairs it. So the honest version isn't, these 5 foods fix your circulation. It's, these foods feed the lining, and 3 other things are sanding it down faster than food can build. Which doesn't make food worthless, it makes it proportionate. Leafy greens, arugula, beets, real nitrate, real pathway, feeding the system that makes that signal, and you make less of it every decade you age. Fatty fish, walnuts, and flax help the lining too. Eat them. They're cheap and they're good. Just don't eat a salad on top of a pack a day and call it circulation care. The salad is bailing. The cigarette is drilling. Which brings us to the pipe itself, and the one nutrient with a real number behind it. Potassium. And the number is more interesting than the pitch. In 2024, researchers pooled the randomized trials on potassium and blood pressure into a dose-response analysis. They found something the food lists never mention. Raised potassium intake, and people who already had high blood pressure dropped their top number by roughly 5.3 millimeters Hg. People whose pressure was normal? About 0.5, half a point. Read that gap again. 5.3 versus half a point. Same nutrient. 10 times the effect, depending entirely on who you already are. That isn't a flaw in potassium. It's the truth about most of nutrition, and almost nobody says it out loud. It fixes what's broken and does very little to what isn't. If your pressure runs 128, potassium is not your lever. If it runs 148, it may be one of the better ones you've got. Stage 1 high blood pressure here starts at 130/80, by the way, not 140. And notice how it reaches your legs, not by opening a vein, through pressure, less pounding on that one-cell lining year after year. Food, not pills. Baked potato with the skin on, white beans, lentils, plain yogurt, winter squash. Now the part you need before you buy anything. If you have kidney disease or take lisinopril, losartan, or spironolactone, those drugs already hold potassium in your body on purpose. Stack a supplement on top and your blood potassium can climb high enough to stop a heart. Food is almost never how that happens. Pills are. So are the salt substitutes that swap sodium for potassium chloride? That's the one that catches people because it looks like health food. Ask your doctor before you add either. Now the 2 red flags, fast, because this is where the ER doctor in me gets loud. Swelling in both legs, that's new, or getting worse, especially with shortness of breath when you lie flat. If you've quietly started sleeping propped on pillows because flat makes you feel like you're drowning, that is not a leg problem. That's your heart. When the heart can't keep up, fluid backs up, into your legs while you're upright, into your lungs the moment you lie down. Both legs plus flat makes me breathless is a call today conversation. The other one leg, just one. Swollen, warm, painful in the calf, and it showed up over a day or two. That's a possible clot in a deep vein. The CDC estimates as many as 900,000 Americans get one every year, and 60 to 100,000 die. And here's the sentence that should get you out of the chair. In about 1 in 4 people who die from a clot that traveled to the lung, sudden death was the first symptom. No warning shot. So here's your ladder. Cheapest rung to most urgent. Both ankles swell by evening, flat by morning. No pain, monitor it. Write down what time it starts. Bring it up at your next visit. Still swollen when you wake up, call your primary care doctor's office and get seen this week. Both legs, new or worse, plus breathless, lying flat, call today and use those exact words. 1 leg, sudden, warm, painful, urgent care today or the ER. Not next week. Any of that with chest pain, sudden shortness of breath, or coughing up blood 911. Not the car. Don't drive yourself. I know an ambulance costs money, and that's a real reason people talk themselves into the driver's seat. It isn't a silly fear, but EMS starts working on you in the driveway, and you get seen faster at the other end. Being sent home with nothing wrong isn't a wasted trip. So what do you do today? Work the pump. That's the whole strategy in 3 words. Ankle pumps, in the chair you're in right now. Feet flat, lift your toes toward your shins, press them back down. 20 of them, during commercials, or every time you stand up. This one works in a recliner, in a car, and in January in Buffalo. Break up standing. Standing still is worse for your veins than sitting. It's the whole reason Barbara's legs went before her patients did. If you must stand, rock up onto your toes and back down. 10 times. You just pumped. Walk a loop. Most of this country has no sidewalk, and ice is a fall risk that costs more than it fixes. So, the grocery store. 1 lap of the perimeter, cart in hand, before you shop. Flat, climate-controlled, free, already on your Saturday. Elevate. 15 to 20 minutes. Feet above the level of your heart, meaning lying down with your feet up on pillows. A recliner doesn't get your ankles above your chest. Late afternoon, before the swelling has had all day to settle. And the ask at your next visit is 1 sentence. My ankles swell by evening. Is this venous? And are my arteries okay for compression? That does 2 jobs. It names what you think it is, and it clears the one thing that makes the treatment dangerous. And if you're on Medicare, the annual wellness visit is free, no copay. Bring this question to that one. Most people never book it. Let me bring this together. 4 parts, 4 ways to fail. The pipe, the lining, the pump, the valves. Blood goes down on your heart's push, comes back up on your calf, and stays up because of doors that only swing one way. If you remember 1 sentence from all of this, make it this one. Swelling that's gone by morning is a valve problem, and valves answer to compression and to your calf, not to your plate. Swelling that's still there by morning was never a leg problem at all. The food is real, and I'd still eat it. Greens and fish for the lining. Potassium if your pressure is high, barely anything if it isn't. But food was never going to close a valve, and I'd rather you knew that tonight than 2 years from now. You're 1 step this week, 20 ankle pumps in your chair tonight, 15 minutes with your feet up tomorrow afternoon. That's the pump. You've had it your whole life, and nobody ever told you what it was for. And if you know somebody who stood on their feet for a living, a nurse, a teacher, a cashier, a barber, send them the morning test. Nobody ever gave Barbara that.